Why does foreign investment in this country get red carpet? Another large German supermarket brand is coming to Australia. Everyone thought it might have been Lidl for a while, but it's Kaufland that's coming to town, and they've finally revealed their plans for an expansion into Australia and to launch into the local market. This involves having 20 stores by the end of 2021, targeting Victoria, Queensland and South Australia. Construction has actually commenced. Well, dirt has been broken in South Australia at their Prospect site. Kaufland is German for purchase and land. Is that for real? And they were established in 1984 and currently operate 1,200 supermarkets across Europe. Aldi's been in Australia since 2002 and has been in South Australia for 3 years now. Kaufland to Australian consumers has been described as a low-priced cross between a Target, Kmart, JB Hi-Fi and a Drake's. It's a big format store that is meant to go out super cheap. Be interesting to see how much cheaper they can go than Aldi, so I wouldn't assume much, but we'll see. Not only will there be disruption to the supermarket, there's going to be some disruption to the bulky goods players as well. So it's good to see we're not going to be the only ones caught in the crossfire. Kaufland stores are generally huge. They've been known as hypermarkets. That's 15 times bigger than an Aldi and 5 times bigger than a Drake's, Coles or Woolworths. We've already seen the effect that Aldi has had coming into the market. In 2018, a team of analysts at Morgan & Stanley published a report which detailed the potential of Kaufland's growth in Australia and warned of the effects it could have on local retailers. It stated Kaufland could generate up to 480 million in Australia revenue by 2020 financial year with just 8 stores. And it predicted that almost 300 Kaufland stores could open in Australia and cement the rise of the discount supermarket model in Australia. I'm calling that out. That ain't going to happen. I'm here with Colin Shearing, who is the CEO of the South Australian Independent Retailers. Colin Shearing, how are you?
Oh, very well, and thanks for having us.
It's been about 3 years since Aldi has been in South Australia. Do you think that it has had an effect on the grocery sector?
Well, of course it has. It's resliced the pie. That's what it's done. So there's a market pie of consumption, and it's just resliced it because the demand hasn't changed.
They've got 26 stores at the moment, and we've had no population growth in South Australia. Is that the same numbers you've been getting?
Absolutely. And what we're saying is, it's had an impact on independent grocery here in South Australia, but it is just reslicing the pie. So it's taking it away from the independents, but it's also taking it away from the Coles and the Woolies, what we call the ugly sisters.
So what has been the direct effect on the independent retailers?
Well, the direct effect is about, a couple of things. Employment and about direct suppliers as well. We're good at what we do. We're about independence, we're about South Australians reinvesting back into the state. But you and I know that they employ less per turnover than what we do as independents. And for every 4 they employ, we employ 12.
How do you think the independent grocery sector is specifically going in South Australia?
Well, at the moment it's very challenging. It's challenging around the nation, but it's certainly challenging in South Australia, and our demand hasn't increased. So we're competitive, and you guys are the same. We're as competitive as we can be in the scheme of things, but it's about demand. Demand hasn't increased.
Yeah.
So it's a challenging market we've got at the moment, and what we are seeing is growth and maybe taking other organisations or retailers' territory. That's what's happening.
Yep.
So it's a reshuffle of market.
I've made it very apparent with my comments about Aldi and how they appeared to have a big rollout of red carpet and very much preferential treatment coming into the state. What's your point of view on that?
Well, certainly we see there is that perception by the current government that they see international players as the best thing since sliced bread. Pardon the pun, but really it's not the best thing since sliced bread because it's about international retailers competing on a local market. We're about local people, local investment. Every dollar you spend in a supermarket like yourselves stays in South Australia. It doesn't go overseas. But the other bit is about planning and development. And planning and development, whether it comes down to councils or whether it comes down to the state government or developers, is that it doesn't mean more jobs. In fact, to the contrary, it probably means less jobs, but we've got to plan this really well. And I'm seeing that Aldi and Kaufland in particular are trying to bend the rules that are in place. Now we're saying let's have the same rules for everyone as independents and as everyone else. They've got to play in the same markets, have the same rules, when it comes to planning and developing their sites.
Has any independent grocer in South Australia got the same treatment?
Absolutely no. That's the answer. No, they haven't. They've got to go through the process they've got to go through. So just to give you an idea, the planning process in South Australia, if you're over a $3 million development, they will normally take that application out of the process. The government will then deal with it on a separate basis.
So does that bypasses the councils?
It bypasses the council, it bypasses everything.
So who actually makes a decision on
government.
that? The government makes a decision.
The government makes a decision through, what used to be the Coordinator General, but whatever that process is now, which we're very unclear of what that is at the moment. But we know those deals are taken out of the local government's hands, and in some ways it's a good thing. But we're saying $3 million is nothing, that. So we're saying, that ceiling should be probably lifted to 25 million in developments, particularly for retail activity centres. But the other part of this, the nub of the story, is that the planning process in South Australia is about, having retail activity centres that can be regenerated and reborn if they need to be. Don't build centres outside of existing retail centres that we are doing across the state, which is disastrous for small business operators, particularly for South Australians. You know me, John Paul, I'm a very parochial South Australian.
Definitely.
And it's about sticking up and supporting business in South Australia and business owners.
And that pretty much sums it up, and it's definitely reflects what we've been talking about. It's all about supporting local and making sure it's a fair playing field. And Colin's really summed it up very well. Thanks, Colin.
Yeah, thanks, John Paul. Thank you very much. Thank you.
When Audi came to town, and specifically when they came to Adelaide, they literally had the red carpet rolled out for them. They even invented a new project that any project in a metro area over $5 million didn't have to go through council approvals, and anything in a rural area over $3 million didn't have to go through council approvals. It could just get rubber stamped and put through. Now, that's unfair. And if they had come in on the same way that every other retailer has been trading, it'd be a lot different place to be in. If they had to open 16 stores within that year that they did, they wouldn't still be opening them now, 3 years later, because they'd still be going through council and red tape. We really got to have a look at the system. And I got to ask, why did they get red carpet? Why does foreign investment in this country get red carpet? We need to be supporting local all the time, and we need to be supporting the independent market. I'm quite happy for competition, don't get me wrong, but competition on a fair playing field. It's not like going to a boxing match and you have to get one arm tied behind your back. That's unfair. Well, that's exactly what happened when Audi came to town. And this is what I'm seeing with Carflen as well. There is no doubt Carflen coming into the market is going to be another disruptor, exactly like what Audi were. And this is only going to put further pressure on all other retailers, but specifically, I would say independent retailers. So the independent retailers really got to have a look at how they're running their businesses. I believe that vertical integration is the only way you can fight in this battlefield. I guess we're all going to find out.